Yeah, welcome to a new edition of my program, The World in the Pocket, and it's me, Gabi Henze. Today I'm virtually in Paris, and my guest is Nadira Artyk, a women's leadership coach, if I may say so. Hello, Nadira.
Hello, Gabby.
You are a founder of a global women's leadership circle as well. So, when did you start to coach, especially women?
So I certified as a coach more than 10 years ago, having graduated one of the leading coaching schools in the world in the United States in New York, IPAC, Institute for Professional Coaching, Excellence in Coaching. And gradually, as I began my coaching journey, I gravitated towards women and women's leadership just because it became obvious that there was a big need. And I have always been passionate about women's development and women's empowerment. And so that's a topic very dear to my heart. And the more I coached women, the more experience and the more knowledge I acquired about the specific issues they're facing.
Yeah. So, what are the main issues?
So, if we talk about women's advancement in their careers, right, and women in leadership, which is a very hot topic and it's going to be hot, for many years to come,
Yeah.
because we all agree that there are numerous benefits to having more women in leadership positions. And yet there is that discrepancy between what we see in figures when we look at companies and organizations across the world. But even if we just look at the West, still the numbers, they desire for more, right? So, and despite all those benefits, we have this gap. So there is the glass ceiling. There is a glass ceiling which is institutional, which is about the biases, which is about the barriers and all the things you know about. However, through my work of working with and coaching and training hundreds and hundreds of women, I have come across and identified the inner glass ceiling. And these are the barriers which are more inner, which women carry because of the societal conditioning. And so we carry on that inner glass ceiling to the workplace, and it holds us back.
Okay. You work not only in Europe, you work globally. So do you see a difference of leadership of women in different countries?
So that's a very good question, very interesting question. I have worked with women leaders in various European countries, in the United States. Since I have been based in Paris, France for the last 10 years, I have come across and worked with many French, for instance, female managers and executives. And I find that French female leaders, they carry a mix of female and male leadership traits, which allow them, permit them to be successful.
Yeah.
And they sometimes, those who have managed to go up and have succeeded in becoming leaders, they have managed to change their mindsets, limiting mindsets, and they have a better grip on things like anxiety or nervousness or self-doubt, which is quite a big barrier in many women. Would you like me to elaborate on more? Because I can talk about many, many nationalities as I work. Since the pandemic, I work across the globe. So I have clients around the globe, but I thought it might be more interesting if I share that this particular place, France, how it is.
Do you see a difference between Western and Eastern Europe?
I have not been able to coach or train as many. I have coached a lot, but not as many women from Eastern Europe as from Western Europe. However, I think it depends on a country.
Yes.
It depends on the country, depends on the woman, because Eastern Europe, I myself, you could say I'm from Eastern Europe because I was born in the former Soviet Union. So
Mm-hmm.
it depends on many policies and education levels, right? A lot of women from Eastern and Central Europe, they go to Western universities and we get degrees in abroad. So it's not necessarily about where East and West, because most women I work with, they're highly educated. They have at least 2 degrees. They have master's degrees. A lot of them have PhDs. They come from science, from engineering, from tech background, artificial intelligence. So they're highly educated.
Yeah.
That has, yeah. So let's go back to the subject of today's interview, which is women's leadership, right?
Yeah.
In order to, despite all that education, despite all those competencies, for them to advance, they need confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so lack of female confidence, it's a fact which is well researched, well documented, and well presented, right? It's there. And yet the ability of people to put themselves forward, to make a compelling ask for what they want in terms of promotions, right? Yeah. And to sell themselves. This is what actually moves the needle in many cases. We have research after research how talent directors, CEOs, other leaders, they choose candidates who display that outer self-confidence, which is something that a lot of women lack.
Mm-hmm. And do you teach this really in your workshop seminars, or what do you do?
So yes, absolutely. I have developed a substantial, comprehensive leadership development program for women, which is 3 to 4 months long, and it's inside out development, right? Because women need to face these inner biases they carry in order to change them, right? So there are 3 main components every successful and effective women's leadership program should carry in itself. So the first one is really help them identify the skills they need to develop or to use more of in order to advance in their careers, and to understand their value, the value they bring to the table, to understand their strengths, to understand their weaknesses. Yeah. That's the first one. The second one, women need to do more of high impact behaviors, or I also call it visibility raising behaviors, in order to be noticed and again be promoted, right? So that is, for instance, knowing what they want and going and asking for it and negotiating, or influencing and developing their network, something that women don't spend much time on, using and leveraging and developing their network, and men do more of, right? And the third component of any effective women's leadership program should focus on helping them remove the limiting mindsets, which most women I worked with, they carry. And that's just to name you 2 the most common ones. One, I need to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
I need to be perfect if I'm to be a senior manager. I need to be perfect if I'm to become a partner in my law firm. I need to be perfect, etc. You can fill in the blanks. So that voice needs to go, because it prevents women from saying, I want to be in that high profile project. I want to, it prevents them from taking risks. It prevents them from going for things which will give them higher dividends, right? And so that's one. The second mindset, which limits and holds women back, and it's deeply, goes back to our cultural conditioning, no matter if we're from the East or the West, it is, my needs don't come first, or my needs come last, right? It's this caretaking kind of role which most women assume from the childhood, you know, and we're raised that way. So, which makes us not want to prioritize our mental health, our physical health. And honestly, when women join Elevate, my leadership development program, and we start with energy management, and when I ask them to rank their energy levels, a lot of them are depleted. They're depleted because they juggle, especially since the pandemic, you know, during the pandemic, they juggle not only full-time work, they juggle kids, they juggle elderly parents, they juggle so many responsibilities, you know, they don't delegate enough, and they are depleted. So when we're depleted, we cannot engage in these high impact visibility raising behaviors like want to network, you know, go to high profile project and volunteer, or raise your voice and challenge somebody. We just want to go through our day, right?
Yeah, understood. How does a workshop look like? Do you give the seminars online or in person, or did you get invited even from companies, or do you approach companies, or is it women who approach you?
So it's not a workshop, it's a program. So it includes training, and it includes coaching in small groups. So it's a very comprehensive program with lots of tools and lots of hands-on approach. So I haven't been approached by a company yet, but I have been presenting and delivering some elements of Elevate, of this program, to companies.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, do maybe one workshop, you know, out of the entire modules. There are 8 modules. So I would present something about, for instance, personal branding, or how to sell yourself, or how to speak up at meetings, or how to interrupt, or how to interrupt the interrupter, which women are very, very uncomfortable with. And yet it's a very essential skill in communication, right?
Yes, it is indeed. So would you say, I know it's a very open question, but would you say that the role of a woman in a leadership position has changed in the past years? Do you see a difference?
Well, the COVID-19, you know, I think it really helped shift our understanding what we want from our leaders and managers.
In
And
general. Yes.
so such a human quality like empathy became almost at the, you know, it's at the top. All the research and surveys show that employees, they want managers who have empathy, they have compassion for them, they have understanding, they can communicate, they're not these rational and cold people who don't care, right? So that became much more important, and women have empathy and compassion in them more naturally, right? It's much easier for them to display it. And in the past, a lot of women were even criticized or judged for these qualities, but now it's something that we actually want more of, and men are expected to develop it as well, right? Male leaders. So in that case, I think that has been a shift. And when we look at the emergence of new style of female leaders in the politics, you know, in the likes of Jacinda Ardern, you know, Michelle Obama, and those are strong and compassionate and yet grounded women who don't want to sacrifice one part of their lives for the other, right? They want to have families and they want to be leaders.
Yes. So could we say that the pandemic even helped a woman in this case?
Well, that's a tricky question. I don't have a clear yes or no answer to that, because on one hand, you know, the business commute, when the business commute was no longer there, a lot of women found it easier to juggle their home responsibilities and work. On the other hand, it depends on the setup they have. A lot of women, they actually missed the settings and a lot of women who introverts, I think they became even quieter. So me as a leadership coach who emphasizes a lot the role of communication, confident communication in women's ability to rise in the ranks and advance in their careers, I think why Elevate has become popular and we're now in the 6th cohort is because a lot of women introverts, they don't know how to be visible if they work from home. And in places like the United States or the UK, a lot of women in tech and science continue working from home, right? So that's a challenge. How do you stay visible? How do you self-promote? How do you speak up for yourself, and also how do you manage your career advancement while working from home, while not meeting your colleagues or your bosses regularly, right? So that's an additional challenge.
Yeah. What else do you do in your women's leadership circle? Do you bring women constantly together and they talk to each other about their situation, or how do I have to see the picture there?
Women's global women's leadership circles, we founded them, me and a couple of women, we co-founded them just before the pandemic. In October 2019, and then the pandemic happened. We had a few events. We had very successful launch event, which was physical. We had a few workshops, which were physical, and then the pandemic happened. So we will be relaunching and going back to physical events, because there was so much Zoom and there was a real Zoom fatigue, during the pandemic. So it was a conscious decision not to do online events, but we will be going back to physical events in the next few months. And we do have a forum, we have a page. So if anybody wants to join Global Women's Leadership Circles, please find me on LinkedIn and connect to me, and I will be happy to invite you.
Yeah, good. And for your program, I can or women can sign up, or how can I come to your program?
Thank you for asking. So there are 2 ways. One is I regularly hold masterclasses for women on finding their leadership voices. So there is one coming up in the end of September. We're now in September 2022, in case somebody will be watching this clip, interview later. Yeah. So again, please connect to me on LinkedIn and I will invite you to my masterclass. Second way is to go to, again, most of the updated information is on my LinkedIn page. I do have a website as well, but I do recommend finding me on LinkedIn. I'm sure you'll write the spelling of my name under the episode.
We will even put a link to LinkedIn on our interview.
Excellent. And also you can give the name of my website, which is Visionary Voices.
Good. Fantastic. Nadira, thank you very much for your time. All the best. And hopefully we will see us soon in person. And I think, we can learn a lot from each other. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gabby. That was sweet and short, just like the way I want it, the way I like it. And all the best. And it's, great to have this series. And thank you for inviting me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
She is here and they are here. I've got the world in my pocket. I've got the world in my pocket. And I like it. And I like it. The vibe is up. She is here and they are near. I've got the world in my pocket. I've got the world in my pocket. I've got the world.